Recording Art on the Blockchain.
Okay, welcome everyone to Art on the Blockchain for Monday, October 28th. I don't have an agenda pre-created, so I wanted to get some agenda topic items from everyone so I can kind of use that to guide the conversation today. So feel free to throw some topic items out if you think of them.
Okay, we need to talk about electronic rights transfer protocol and the DAO alliance between DigLife and HiFiDAO.
Well, Gary, can you give us a report on, I saw a bunch of stuff, I looked last night. I want to offer everyone an apology for being a little MIA recently. I've just been a little snowed in with a lot of different stuff, and I've had to sort of do a lot of work, so I haven't been able to check the Discord. But Gary, it seems like there was a bunch of stuff that happened with ISCC and the different hashing protocols. Can you give us a quick update for Steve's notes on what on what you guys figured out with that?
Yeah, the perceptual hashing is a good tool, and it's the one that allows you to look at files that have slight changes in them, but it's not, nearly as severe or strict as cryptographic hashing is. And cryptographic hashing tells you if any bit in the whole file has changed. But this perceptual hashing is a better tool for certain things. But the ISCC approach is much more comprehensive. It covers all kinds of different, I say all kinds, several kinds of different hashes, which are useful for different reasons. They include perceptual hashing. They include hashing for, cryptographic hashing. They also have a protocol set up so that we can identify these digital objects, and it appears to be the best thing going along those lines until we're told otherwise. So we will, as far as I can tell, we'll be using ISCC in our Art on the Blockchain digital objects description.
I think that's really exciting news that we think it's good, because in a way what you're making me think about is different forms of hashing are applicable to different forms of content distribution
and applications. For one thing, you'll use one type of hashing. For another, you'll probably use the perceptual. For others, you'll use cryptographic. But you can have all those going at the same time.
Yeah, that's bonkers, because then it can basically track, if I have a picture and that picture goes into a web page, it can track that picture in the web page.
Exactly.
Versus,
yes, and, as far as text content goes, you can take a book, you can encode it in all kinds of different ways: HTTP, ASCII, flat ASCII, PDF, and ISCC has the ability to determine rather quickly that you're still talking about Moby Dick, no matter what format it's in. So, yeah, we got all kinds of goodies there that, considering our limited, primitive sort of toy model startup, I mean, there's way more than we'll need at the beginning, but there's no reason not to just go ahead and employ what we found there. And all these things are very easy to use. I mean, I don't think we need to spend any more R&D there, because if I can pull them up and think I understand them, the people that really know what they're doing should have no problem at all. But what we need to move towards is a better understanding of ERTP and how this is going to work. Dan on Saturday, we need to put that down. We had a good meeting with Dan on Saturday where he talked about the agoric, what is it, Jim? The agoric toy model that he installed on his computer, and we saw how to write agoric contracts. And now it's not as, it is a little deeper than ISCC file descriptors or object descriptors. I mean, it's a lot deeper. But now the good news, the HypaDAO people appear to be ahead of us in their understanding of agoric and ERTP. So if we can...
Wait a second, that's not what I was saying.
I thought you said they were.
No, I was referring to not to the helper now, the Economic Space Agency.
Oh, the Economic Space Agency.
Yeah, so we were in contact with them like a year ago. They're based in Montreal at Concordia. It's this guy, Eric. Gosh, I actually kind of wanted to go study under him for a while. But like, we're not positive that they actually did anything, like other than theorize on a bunch of stuff.
Well, they are closely associated with agoric and the ERTP folks. And if you haven't seen it, I would strongly suggest watching the video, The Grammar of Economic Space Agency.
You're saying that he's using ERTP ideas in ESA.
Okay.
ESA is using ERTP.
Right. It's they're closely associated with the agoric and Mark Miller stuff.
So can I ask a stupid question regarding ERTP? I still haven't watched fully the whole Mark Miller video. I'm sorry. But so it seems like, though, from a superficial perspective, that ERTP is a very broad construct that can encompass lots of different types of content, right? Similar to the way ISCC can be used for lots of different types of content and distribution means, right?
ERTP is about secure smart contracts, period. Okay? It's about, when we talk about creating an art object that's independent of any particular blockchain, okay, the ERTP defines, our cross-blockchain transactions. It gives us that level of abstraction of things that crosses blockchain boundaries or is independent of blockchains.
It lives on top of...
It could be implemented in many different ways, but it's electronic rights transfer protocol.
And it lives on top of object capabilities.
Right.
So it's not reliant on Casper or on the sort of distributed computation thing. It's like it's a level of abstraction that can live on top of that, but it doesn't require that to exist. So it can live on a dumber form of blockchain that doesn't do computation that fast.
Yeah, it can. It can handle peer-to-peer transactions.
It's sort of like the problems that come about when you do concurrent computation. Jim, don't you see the analogy between what Mark Miller is doing and what Greg is doing with his language?
Yeah, on the one hand, we're saying this is more conceptual, but at the same time, the actual contracts we're using on our chain are directly derived from Mark Miller's ERTP stuff. I mean, the whole idea of the make first, or of the make mint and the purses and all that comes right straight out of Mark Miller's work. And so does this Economic Space Agency stuff, where they're, and the thing I'm suggesting here is that the grammar of Economic Space Agency. How can tokens be used to organize an economic space? Okay, although it doesn't say ARC, everything that they say about tokens here applies to ARC. Okay, or applies to all. It applies generally to tokens. So one of the things we learned on Saturday is we had been looking at the ERC 721 interface for the non-fungible tokens, and Dan was suggesting that we can skip that. We don't have to look at that. The ERTP stuff, takes us from a different model, which is the capability model, which is what we use on our chain, and which basically doesn't exist on Ethereum. So, basing it on a 721 wouldn't really buy us anything. So we had kind of left off last week saying, oh, we've got to understand 721 better to see how that applies to us here. And in a sense, 721 is still going to be of interest in terms of we're still going to have assets on Ethereum that are 721, but instead of this being the first thing we do, it's the last thing we do.
Yeah, and we'll do the heavy lifting in Rolang.
Right. To do the rollout stuff, we don't need to be concerned with the 721.
The contracts themselves aren't that complex, though, right?
But
well, the problem is Ethereum is broken. We want to do as little on Ethereum as possible.
Well, Ethereum, I mean, they have a roadmap, and they're going to be developing Casper on it. I mean, they're making progress. I mean, I checked in on them recently. I have faith that Ethereum is going to get their act together, but for now, yeah, it's problematic. I think the main thing is in terms of representing ownership, the ERC 721, there's a marketplace there, right? So even if all of the contract stuff is happening and rolling on our chain, we can still represent ownership in a wallet using an ERC 721, and that's all we need to do, just so the asset can be bought and sold. Otherwise, it just makes it more. I mean, I hate that I sound very network effecty saying that, but like in a way, it is sort of important right now for any type of prototype to have that.
Yeah, but that would be the second prototype. Once we do our own prototype, it'll be obvious to us how we go to ERC 721.
Yeah, it's the last thing. It's that part I'm not concerned about because it's super easy to make an ERC 721. That's not the part that I'm really concerned with.
Good.
It's mostly about like how do we define the artist's rights within the rolling smart contract, and how do we structure that? I mean, it gets really difficult. And if we can nail that part, all the other parts become much easier, right?
Yes, I agree. But I don't see that there's much to that other than just doing it, because we're going to do it step by step, and each step is going to be obvious what we need to do, in my humble opinion.
Would wireframes help us?
I don't know anything about wireframes.
Like user story, like kind of wireframes, like this does this, functions this, you know what I mean? Like sort of creating like a type of like flow chart diagram of usability and
that might be be helpful. But I'm not, it's not something I've ever made use of.
Okay. Jim?
You're on mute.
Yeah, we definitely want to flesh out our user stories. And that's, I mean, that's where that's what, we started to do that, but we never really did it. I mean, we have a user story. Somebody creates a piece of art. Okay, then they want to sell the art, and so
Yeah, I mean, again, the selling of the thing is the last part that we need to worry about. Like, for instance, like we could be talking to a museum right now where they're not necessarily buying and selling anything, but they still need to make use of this system as a way of archiving the work, right? And I think from Ned's perspective, that would be highly interesting because that would drive an intense amount of traffic onto our chain. Isn't that right, Ned?
That is right.
So, like, again, the buying and selling stuff is, I don't think that's the most important thing here, worrying about how something gets bought and sold. It's all the stuff that prefigures that. Does that make sense? Like, we keep going to the token. I don't know that tokens are really the important thing here. It's the other protocols, right? Like, can we talk a little bit more about ERTP? Like, how
tokens, I mean, the non-fungible token is critical, but no, yeah, the other tokens, that's actually a separable project. I agree.
Yeah.
The community tokens.
Yeah, the idea of a token is simply means that you have a representation of something. The tokens represent something.
So as I'm taking notes here, I'm putting down action items. So I'm trying to get a sense of what the direction is. So Eric, you talked about a more actionable item right now would be with the gallery's use case for the art on the blockchain. And can you describe that one more time?
we need a tool that our individual artist can use to basically publish their artwork through. So like a simple interface where you upload your file, pick from a list of options, right, for how that work is authenticated and structured, right, what the contract is. And then, only then, is a token generated to represent use of that work, right, that work, which is tied to whatever that rights management sort of schema is. But the certificate of authenticity, the fields need to encompass the certificate of authenticity, which has two main pieces of information, right? Who created the piece, who now owns the piece, right? And what is the piece? And part of what is the isness, like this is a square box that has a picture in it, right? But then we also need to say, like, this piece only exists in relationship to the smart contract, right? And to its location distributed storage. It's like these things. This is why I'm saying maybe, like, I keep talking about it, but maybe drawing pictures and creating some diagrams would maybe be useful in that way.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I think, I get a sense we need to, about this realm of possibilities of what direction we need to go. So a diagram or a picture to help us kind of focus on what the action item is, so that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, like storyboards. I know. But like, so yeah, so that's like the general thing. But getting back to ERTP, So how does it differ from what we've been talking about, or is it the same thing ultimately, or like is there sort of a diversion or a different way that we need to be thinking about the creation of the certificate of authenticity and the smart contract? Oh, and also, do we need to talk about DID, because you guys came to some important conclusion with that other guy about that DID isn't good?
Well, no, we didn't come to a conclusion on it, but I'm certainly not convinced that we have a good alternative for a DID. DID gives us a namespace where we can reference things and discover information about them. So, I mean, in the current internet, we have the DNS, where we can, find an address, and we can get in. You can go to jimwhitescrubber.com, and that doesn't exist though. But there may be a page out there that I can call my own, but there isn't really a standard for how you discover stuff about me. Okay, and the DID directory gives us a standard of how we can find out about stuff. Now, it may not be so important in that until we have a bunch of different systems in place that have stuff out there, we may not need a standard way of interacting with things, right? We can have just one way of interacting with things that we use, and we don't care about talking to anybody else, right? About the stuff they create. But it's some things to learn about it. But basically, talking with Dan, rather than leading with the DID stuff, I decided that it was more further down the road.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's something we can add in later. We can add it in later as a kind of like a wrapper.
Right. You can say, here's our direct,
So in relationship to ERTP,
directory of art objects to DIDs.
How does ERTP change how we think about smart contracts or the execution of this, like the simple rubric that got put out about the 15% resale royalties, right? Like, how does ERTP change it? Or ERTP.
Okay, we're still looking at the whole ERTP thing and how it does it. But the basic thing is that we're thinking in object capabilities. Okay, and we're going to have and we have to sort of change our notion of ownership and identity and all that stuff. And we don't know exactly how, but basically when we create a new art object, it's going to return a set of capabilities. Okay, and whoever has access to those capabilities can do stuff. Okay, and basically I was just saying, well, we have an art object, which is a public address where you can do things, and an admin interface, which only an owner has access to. And really, it gets finer than that, in that, any kind of capability you want to associate with the art object. In principle, it could be a separate capability. Okay, and we can add more capabilities to the list of capabilities here.
So, Jim, just so I understand, these capabilities are basically like functions.
Well, yeah. Okay, anybody who has anyone who we give an art object to. Okay, they can do a get data, and this was from the 721, which for a key they can get back a value. Okay, and if they have an admin capability, they can set a value for a key. Okay, somebody who has the point thing can do a buy, and I guess they're making an offer for it. They don't know if buy is the right term.
Yeah, I picked up the fact that there's another part to every contract, the offer, which is talked about in the space agency video you put up there.
Right.
But we saw that in Dan's introduction to Agoric. We saw that showed up in that sequence of operations you can do down, that he did all of. And so now we have, I guess for me, the next thing I need to do is go through that tutorial that Dan played with and make sure I can do that. And that thing's gonna have more meat about what we need to learn about than anything else. Would you agree, Jim?
I think so. I actually came out a little bit more confused.
You did after seeing that? I think I would be less confused if I would rewatch that critical video that Mark Miller does, and then immediately after doing that, I went through their little demo. Get Agoric up and running in 5 minutes. The Medium article that we saw. Because I sort of understood Mark Miller's video. I could see the parallels between what Greg was talking about in Mark Miller's video, and then when but I saw, wow, here's the hands-on way to play with all those concepts that Mark Miller was talking about. And it also shows us how they do it in their contracting language. And then we've got to figure out how we want to do it. Or how we interface with that protocol that they've set up.
Yeah.
So the action item, Steve, will be Gary will attempt to replicate what Dan did on Saturday when he showed us the Agoric introduction.
Okay.
That'll be my action item anyway from this meeting. Did you hear that, Eric? You hear my action item?
No, what's your action item?
I'm going to attempt to replicate what Dan did with the get Agoric contracting language up and running in 5 minutes. There's a Medium article that tells how to do that.
Now, is Agoric a programming language? Like, is ERTP a programming language, or is it like how? I don't understand how it's a protocol. Is it just an idea?
ERTP is a protocol. Agoric is this concept. Jim, would you call that their VAT? Or am I that's sort of like their platform.
Yeah, I mean, they have like the two things. It's it's a standard interface to an untrusted environment, and then a way of defining an environment to be trustworthy. And then they have the Cosmos blockchain, right? The Cosmos is sort of like supposed to be a blockchain that controls access between blockchains, or that does that handles consensus across blockchains.
Which blockchain does this?
Cosmos.
That's the Agoric blockchain, right?
So would I be far off if I said, if we looked at the Keybase and the lumens and those are XLM, right? Stellar. So we look at Keybase and Stellar, or Agoric and Cosmos. Would that be a good comparison?
I think it's really different. I mean, in that.
All right. Well, I obviously I've got more.
Cosmos is about developing consensus, whereas the Agoric, in terms of the Jessie language and the ESL or whatever it is
Jessie is a subset of JavaScript. It's a safe subset of JavaScript.
So would Cosmos basically act as like a sort of meta ledger for the blockchains that live underneath it? So it doesn't, there can be no double spend between blockchains.
That's the idea, yeah.
But you can still do things in all the different blockchains, and then have it sort of registered. Okay, Eric paid Gary one whatever, and whatever processes or operations are happening in the subchains, the Cosmos chain still just registers. Okay, +1, -1.
Right.
So okay, but do we need that right now? I guess in general, like yes, like something like that sounds amazing, but ERTP is separate from this Cosmos blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Well, ERTP is to Cosmos what Rolang is to our chain. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
I missed something here.
I
I
would
mean,
say,
Agoric is about ERTP, which is the electronic rights transfer agreement, whereas Cosmos is about an interchange protocol.
Is erights.org where I should be looking?
I think so.
This
That-
website looks like it was made in 1997.
Let me go look at that. I think that's where,
It may need to be updated a little.
erights.org.
Yeah, well, it goes back pretty far.
yeah, it does.
Probably Agoric, right?
Agoric Labs.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's not the page I was thinking about. I'm not sure where this E-Right. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there's Mark Miller right at the bottom of the page, but that's not the page I usually go to.
I mean, yeah, Agoric is a little bit more modern.
I think the place I went was ERTP something.org. No, that's not it. Ooh, how did I get to Yahoo search? It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, I guess that is the page.
Yeah, I mean, I'm DuckDuckGoing it, and it's nothing's coming up.
So, yeah. So I guess the Agoric is all about JavaScript stuff. Okay, the pixel gallery stuff.
Basically, this protection against double spin. And this and this stuff has to be done correctly. And they've done it correctly. So we just need to copy what they've done.
Okay, all right. So now I'm starting to understand. So ERTP is a way of preventing double spend in the contract, so the contract doesn't get executed twice on different blockchains, or I thought like the whole thing with the single blockchain is a contract. Well, I mean, gets executed. Well, that could vary. That could depend, right?
Well, double spend on a single blockchain is not too difficult, but double spend across blockchains is very problematic.
But is that why you should use ERTP? And how does it solve that issue?
I would have to refer you back to the Mark S. Miller video, because I feel that the explanation given in there is, both necessary and sufficient. And I can't do any better than to point you at Mark Miller's video, because it's almost, I mean, to understand that, it was easy for me to understand, but only because I'd spent 3 years or 2 years looking at the development of our chain.
Mm.
and the principles or the concepts necessary to understand the issues is the best way I can explain it.
Okay, I've got the video up. So here, let me
Yeah,
share it
I need
here.
to find like an hour that I can actually watch this. That's kind of part of the problem is just I don't have like a lot of.
Yeah, and you don't. I don't even think you need to watch the whole video.
No,
There's some good stuff in there. There's a lot of preliminary stuff that's not necessary, but there is a section that would
so Eric,
suffice.
here's the link in the notes. Here, let me get the notes in the chat here. So if you bring up the notes, and then there's a link to the Mark Miller video, and this is right approximately where he starts talking about the VATs. So you could probably back it up a few minutes where he's talking about the different machines, but the VATs, the machines, the VATs, and then the JavaScript OCAPs, or object capabilities layer. So if you just watch that section, I think you'll have everything you need to know as far as what Jim and Gary are talking about, as far as what is this domain with which.
Where is it? I'm looking for the links.
So in the
right,
Zoom
right.
chat, I posted
Here it is.
I posted the here. Let me.
I have it. So,
Yeah.
Way we are used to it.
So from approximately from the beginning to where?
So yeah, I'm a few minutes into. You could probably. So you have those. You starts talking about the different layers. So
Yeah.
I'm at the green layer, which is the VAT. So that's the important layer, kind of what we're talking about, and the layer that goes on top of the VAT. But to understand what the VAT is and the green layer and what the blue layer is on top, back it up a few minutes at the beginning to where he starts talking about the machine layer. So here, let me see if I can get a better spot where he starts talking. So I might have it here. There.
Yeah, this part. Yeah, I watched up to maybe like, I think I watched like up to like here, basically.
To provide orientation about what we're doing.
All right, I'll try to find a minute and I'll watch this later.
Okay.
So it doesn't change what we're going to do, but it changes how we're going to do it, because we're going to do it in such a way that prevents double spend. What else will this enable us to do?
All kinds of reassignments of rights of ownership and use of our art object. All kinds. Just anything we want, we can do it.
The first thing is the object capability model, which is the security model that works for decentralized processing, distributed decentralized processing, this object capability model. The electronic rights transfer protocol is a layer on top of the capability model, which lets you do things like control how electronic rights transfer is done. So in order to implement the it directly addresses things like the uh, the art object. What do you call it? The 15% that we're trying to do.
The resale royalty?
Right. Okay, and it does so, using a model that can be proven secure.
Can be proven secure because smart contracts in and of themselves aren't secure. I thought they already are secure because they're being executed on the chain.
Security comes in a lot of flavors.
Yeah.
They are secure because they're executed on the blockchain. And I also think the double spend problem is actually handled by Rolang, isn't it? Right? I mean, our smart contracts won't allow a double spend.
Yeah, but on Rolang, you're right. But again, that's not where we're worried. We're worried about the across chain stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically a way of formatting things so we can use Rolang and have things work on Holochain and Archain and Ethereum and Tether.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if we use the if we use the model, okay, which we do, we use that model on our chain itself. I mean, when we write a contract that's going to control the transfer of assets or the escrow, in order to do an atomic transfer of assets, you've got to have a security model that you're using to do that. I mean, you can write a contract, and let's say, I want to trade with you, a duck for a goose. Okay, I can send you a duck, and you cannot send me the goose, right? So you need something escrow capability there, and ERTP model tells you how you can do that securely. So that either you get the duck, I get the goose, or nothing happens.
Mm.
And allows you to have arbitrarily complex terms.
That's always exciting and fun. I like arbitrary and complex. It's like my entire art oeuvre.
Arbitrarily complex.
Arbitrarily complex, yes. I'm all about it. Yeah. It's kind of like reading Proust or something.
Hey guys, I have to move on to my next meeting.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Ned.
I'll see you guys all tomorrow.
Yep.
See you.
Thank you.
So, Steve, so are you still doing that other meeting you have to do for the Archain meeting?
Yeah. So I've got another one at 3.
At 3, but the
Yeah.
other one I thought the other one was going to be at 1 o'clock.
So let's see, which one was that? I think they moved it from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so we're safe. I'm able to attend these meetings at the usual time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that was for the Archain fundraising committee?
Right. Investor relations working group, as they call it.
Did they wind up getting any of that money that they said that people had promised them?
Yeah. So they've got about half of it. So, yeah. So they're working with the Chinese community on the other half.
Interesting. So China's really starting to put some more money in.
Yeah.
Can is that offer still open by any chance?
That I don't know. You can, yeah, certainly contact Greg. He can give you an update on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to find some money, but I was just curious.
Mm-hmm.
To buy more of the rock currency.
Yeah.
Huh. Should I buy rock? Should I put money into it?
I will not say that to anyone, because I am not, I believe in the project. That's all I can say. I don't understand cryptocurrency economics, though.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone does.
Yep. I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's it could be that an Archain fork takes off and the rocks are worth nothing.
Yeah.
But it's basically, you're continuing to fund the development of it, basically.
Right.
Well, with some hope of.
And they were, a year ago, or was it a year ago now, or was it almost 2 years? They were worth a lot of money.
Yeah, at one time I was up 6 figures on the Archain project.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not anymore.
Crypto millionaires. I know. It was like my friend who bought in to Ether when it was like, $1.
Yeah.
And for a while, I mean, he was a crypto millionaire, but he's a true believer. And so he didn't sell out. And so, now he's got borscht.
Yeah, a lot of people in that boat.
Well, if he bought it for $1, he's still doing damn good.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, look, that's how I'm like living on. I'm like, this is how I'm living right now. I'm like finishing grad school based on my Ether money,
Sweet.
Which isn't a lot.
I bought at $20.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I mean, but it was so overblown. Do I think it's worth $1,400? It's like no, I don't know what good that did. I mean, I guess it funded a lot of development, so a lot of people got money for their projects,
Yeah, and it's amazing, that ETH is worth what it's worth, considering there aren't really any applications on Ethereum.
Yeah, there's nothing exciting yet, so
Yeah, I mean, but like all those companies, like, I mean, the big ones, like, are they still around? Like Singular DTV, Foam, that geospatial thing is still around. They just signed up in New Labs. I mean, I don't know. Some of these projects seem to have like, I mean, I guess they probably raised so much money at some point that they just like cashed it out and like they have capital to keep going.
I wish Archain had cashed out some crypto at the right time, but hindsight's 2020. I don't think I would have cashed out. I'm too loyal to the space to have cashed out. But if we had taken the advice of even a radical, investment advisor, he had said, "Get out! You're way overextended in crypto." Even the aggressive ones would have told us that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like, as I remember, like, back in like when I was a kid and like the stock market was blowing up and there was like the whole tech boom, and everyone thought it was just going to keep going up and up. And I'm like, there's no way this could go up like this forever. It's just, there's just no logical way this is going to continue like this, right? but you get wrapped up in the bubble logic, you know?
Oh yeah.
I admit it. You know, I thought tech could never go down. You know, and I thought,
But even after you guys having lived through the first .com bubble, and you still didn't see it coming. I mean, you guys were like, you know,
No, I saw it coming in Bitcoin, but yeah, I told everybody, you know, don't buy Bitcoin, don't buy Bitcoin. It was way overpriced.
yeah, I think people were expecting a drop in Bitcoin and Ethereum even, but
but it seems like now there's kind of these like whales like signaling, like, so it's like I'll check up on like the market, and it's like someone just bought $1 billion of Bitcoin, and so the market just goes up a little bit, you know, and everyone's like holding because they think it's going to, you know what I mean? It's like, but it seems like it's just being manipulated by a few huge holders, and that's like basically what's happening. And everyone else is sort of like operating in the wake of those huge holders.
yeah,
The ones that are trying to apply logic to the price of crypto right now are the silly ones. You know, I don't think there's much logic there. You know,
Well, unless you're trying to launder money, I mean, Zcash. How is Zcash doing? Like,
I don't know. But yeah, laundering money.
Hey guys, I'm going to jump off here in a minute, but I just want to, with the notes, just kind of go over what the action items we have here. So Gary, you're going to attempt to replicate what Dan Conley did over the weekend, and then Eric, we were talking about galleries or tools for artists to with which to publish their art through. Did you want to create a diagram? Do you think that would be helpful, or?
yeah. So, well, there's two things that I need to do right now. I want to develop some internal stuff for us, just, but then I also have this secondary sort of objective, which is I have to figure out what I'm presenting in 2 weeks in Amsterdam. To sort of convince, like, if you guys are interested in the Economic Space Agency, I'm basically going to go and present in front of that whole scene of people, right? And so I need to figure out what we're going to talk about, because there's a lot of they're extremely critical, right? And they have every right to be critical of this space.
Sure.
I mean, especially given the behavior of our chain, right? And like Greg's behavior is like really problematic. And so I need to figure out how to talk about that stuff. Also in relationship though to the fact that there is some really important stuff happening here, and sort of balancing the perspective out so they don't eviscerate me and discard the project just because of Greg's behavior and sort of the R-Chain collectives. Like it's like typifies all the problematic blockchain stuff, right? And this is what they're all reacting to, right? Sort of cult of personality, problematic behavior, sort of rampant speculation, right? People that are only in it for those purposes. And then there's kind of like the true believers, which I think that's the side thing that we're all in, right? Like, well, but this could be amazing. This could do amazing things, right? And so part of that is really articulating, well, okay, what are those actually amazing things? Like even when every time Greg gets pressed about like some kind of mishap, he talks about ecological catastrophe as a way of obfuscating those, you know, and like his reasoning is really thin. But that said, like there are some things that we aren't thinking about that, like if we were actually creating more types of cooperative use cases, it creates a better incentive. So like one of the things I'm going to have to talk about is the ecological footprint, right? Why is our chain ecologically more responsible than these proof of work systems, right? Which I'm sort of gearing up to do.
Okay.
Because that's like the one thing that makes them all go psychotic is the amount of energy that Bitcoin is using.
What exactly are you supposed to be talking about? I mean, what's the purpose of this conference?
It's called Money Lab.
Money Lab.
And it's a conference for sort of people in the humanities dealing with the intersection of finance and art and cryptocurrency. And so the majority of the work being presented there is either speculative or critical. There aren't really people that go there to present real projects. Like, and I consider what we're doing to sort of be on the speculative realism side of things, because what we're doing in a way is about demonstrating an idea in my mind, but it also has potentially real applications if we do accomplish something. And so I need to figure out how to storytell this in a way that sort of, what's my relationship to this group as an artist? Is this my art project, right? Like, what am I doing here versus what are we doing versus what is the organization doing, right? And I can't sort of obfuscate any of those things. Otherwise, I'm going to get called out on it for being dishonest, right?
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's kind of and I'm also doing Dungeon Master, which is really interesting because Dungeon Master is my performance art project. So I'm going to give a real lecture on the work that we're doing here. And then I'm going to give a fake lecture that's an actual performance art piece called Dungeon Master, where I release an academic speed metal PowerPoint album called Fear and Trembling on the Blockchain. And I rant about neo-feudalism for 20 minutes while speed metal music plays.
Right.
Which is also like a real aspect of this whole sort of sovereign identity, sovereign nation states issuing our own currency. I mean, that is a form of neo-feudalism, right? Where we issue our own currency and then only like rich people basically have access, and like it's like those with crypto or those with wealth have power, and then it's completely there's no barriers then for asserting their power in these spaces because we've sort of sidestepped any types of government, like democratic governance, right? Or governments, right, of the people, unless you're sort of invested in these proof of work systems. And so there's like sort of these intensely problematic aspects. And I'm looking at this and saying, yes, but if we were to spend our time developing better systems with these tools, maybe some of those, we can mitigate some of those really awful things that are going to happen with these systems.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to run a talk by us for our critique and suggestions, that might be a good use of one of our meetings. And it doesn't
love that if next week, because next week. Next week I'm leaving in like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to go down to New York, and I'm going to spend Thursday and Friday and Saturday at the Platform Cooperatives Conference. I'm not presenting there, but that's the thing with Trevor Schultz runs at the New School.
Awesome. I'll see you there.
Jim, you're gonna go?
I'm going.
Oh, sick! Let's go get some souvlaki, dog.
Ooh, I'm hungry already.
Yo, Gary, you guys should come up and hang out. Let's have like a jam session in New York. Like
last time I went to New York, the lights went out.
Oh, you'll be fine. It's not that season. Unless you have that effect on technology, you're just kind of got this like electromagnetic EMT just like shuts everything out,
Yeah, there were some synchronicities going on about that, and I'm thinking Ayn Rand and the lights going out in New York and did you read Atlas Shrugged?
Oh God, no.
I did, but in high school, so I have an excuse. But that was kind of the punchline of Atlas Shrugged was, we'll know that the great people have left when the lights go out in New York. And I'm thinking, oh, crap. This is punishment for me reading Atlas Shrugged, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would like ideally, so maybe like next week, because then on the following Monday, so this next Monday, the following Monday, I'll be flying/arriving in Amsterdam. I don't know the time different. I don't know if I'll be making it to that meeting. It's possible, but like, I don't really know what that means as far as time differentials. And if it's 12 noon Eastern time, no, 1 o'clock here, that means it'll be 7 o'clock there on Monday. It's possible I can make that meeting, but I would like to talk to you guys about it and maybe give like a a 15 to 20-minute presentation
Sure.
Okay.
about what we're
Yeah,
doing.
and if you make any glaring mistakes, we might be able to help you polish those up.
Yeah, I mean, because I think I have to figure out to what extent I'm talking about the technology versus more of the critical implications of this, right? Because this isn't really the techiest crowd, but we want them to understand that what we're using and why. And so I have to sort of skirt that line. It's funny, I made a presentation to my graduate seminar a couple of weeks ago, and they were mostly interested in the implications, not the technology. Like I started out, all right, this is what the blockchain is. This is why we were using it, blah, blah, blah. And like, they were kind of like, you should have started in the middle and just talked about what this is going to do for artists. That's what we actually care about, not which technology stack you're using.
Sure.
But however, the one thing I do want to say is, between the Platform Cooperatives Conference and Money Lab, there's a real opportunity here to get some of these people to take an interest in this community. And so I think that's why I think it's important, because they're super critical, but they're tied in with all the academic institutions that are doing this type of work. And so between what we're doing here and Dig Life and Seeds, I think there's sort of like an opportunity to present this in a way that maybe will open up some doors. I don't know what yet, because again, they're super critical, they're Marxists. And the thing with these academic Marxists, I mean, which I am one of those people, mind you, but like they've been trained to be hypercritical and not productive, but it's not productive. It's just like, this is how this represents capitalism. This is how this intensifies capitalism, right? And they're trained to sort of ferret these sort of discrepancies out. Whereas I think this sort of tack that we're taking here and in Dig Life is more about, let's just build systems, right? Let's build new systems. And so I want to, like, my goal is to be able to present that idea of let's build systems in a way that is compelling and sort of says, yeah, we should be doing this. This is like part of our lineage, right? Of people that, like, artists working with technology are all about envisioning new systems,
Tomorrow we're having a meeting. I sent you an invitation on the Seeds project, which
I want to start going to those meetings and like I want to be in those groups. I want to see what they're doing. Cause I feel very suspicious of this already.
yeah.
Of the Dell Alliance?
Yeah. The Seeds thing. It just, their rhetoric, I don't know. It's like, it's they're saying all the right things, but then when you look at it, it seems like it's another Ponzi scheme,
I haven't grokked it yet, I'll be honest.
Right. And, we're having a deep dive tomorrow.
What time?
The meeting I invited you to.
Where did you invite me to it?
4 o'clock.
You should have an email. I sent you a calendar invitation.
You sent me a calendar invite?
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I do have something in my calendar. Tomorrow's not, the afternoons aren't good for me, unfortunately.
I'm hoping they record this because I've got a contractor coming at 3 that I'm debating on whether I should reschedule. If they're not recording it, then I will have to reschedule that meeting because I want to hear this.
Yeah, and we'll have to, like he said, there's a lot of rhetoric here. But I think the rhetoric here is relevant in that I think it's real, and I think we can change the world by changing our money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
I think that if we look at
I think the issue is that, like, I can't really present on this until I really understand it, because, like, it's taken me up till now to sort of start to grok what's going on with RChain and between RChain, Dig Life, and Colab. And so in order to be able to present, I have to present a realistic picture of what these things are, right? Both the problems and the solutions. So I can't present on Seeds because it's just more rhetoric, and I don't want to seem like a chump.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you report on seeds. I mean, that's just an example of the rhetoric that we're all trying to do in our own way. And the Economic Space Agency, if you look at this talk, it's only like 10 minutes. Okay, and he really gets to the heart of what tokens are and what money is really, and how we can incentivize behaviors by designing our money, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I love, like, you understand, I love the Economic Space Agency's ideas. Like, they just hit all my warm, tingly places as far as, like, their ideas for how we use restructure currency, programmatic currency for programmatic economy, and we can create all sorts of idealistic scenarios that way. I love that idea, That's what draws me to all of this.
Right.
I mean, maybe after
the thing I keep coming back to.
I'm actually on their Slack somewhere.
Hey guys, I'm going to head on out.
we
Jim
got-
and Gary, for tomorrow, I won't be able to attend the wallet development testing session. So if either one of you could lead the discussion and record it, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm available.
All right. And I'll put a reminder in Discord tomorrow for the meeting. Okay, I'll see you guys.
Steve, thanks for coming.
Thanks,
Yep.
Steve.
Yeah, if you guys can record the Seeds meeting tomorrow, I'll try and watch all of this stuff later this week. It just sucks. Like, my schedule Tuesdays is like slammed in the afternoon. Wednesdays is kind of open, but I wind up having to do all this catch-up work those days, so I'm not as available for meetings. Thursday is like a 12-hour day
Oof.
until like 10 at night, and then Fridays is like another like a 5-hour chunk in the morning, and then I'm just like, my brain is jelly by like 3 in the afternoon. I just like
So, my hot button, so to speak, is self-capitalization. Okay, and in essence, it's the one thing to create value. It's the other thing to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And I think, Mark Miller goes over in detail the difference, the difference between having a property that you're capitalized on or not, which is what made that video so useful. My thinking is that what we want to capitalize on is future value. Okay, we don't want to be limited by current value. We want to capitalize on future value.
I see that as in the abstract of saying, well, like, yeah, things are going to keep getting better, but like that also seems to me also like a speculation market for futures where we're going to short corn and starve the entire
That's the
nation.
thing. Okay, if you're going to build a bridge, okay, and then capitalize on the value of the bridge, and the bridge falls down the first day, well, you fucked up. You spent $1 million to build a bridge that now is worth nothing, right? Because you misplaced your sentiment.
But
Whereas if you used $1 million of future value to build the bridge, and the bridge is now worth $10 million, well, now you've made it. You've invested your future value well, so to speak. I mean, the way we do it now is we borrow the money from the bank, but the way that we're doing it in the future is we're creating tokens. We're creating our own currency for our own projects, and they have an expected value. And people who believe it'll attain those values accept the tokens. Now,
Well, in the case of this bridge model, so let's say the Transit Authority of New York issued a token for the new Tappan Zee Bridge, which they called the fucking Cuomo Bridge. Fuck Cuomo, for Christ's sake. What a dick. But like, you know, they call it the Tappan Zee Bridge. Thank you very much. It's the Tappan Zee Bridge. It goes from Jersey to Westchester. It's the Tappan Zee Bridge, right? So they got they blew up the old one. They made a new one, right? And they made the lanes wider, so it's less of a shit show when people try to go to work. So that's got real economic value, right? That worth maybe they spent $100 million on that bridge, and that's going to generate $1 billion of economic activity, right? But like, what are we doing? Are we speculating on that? Like, we're not selling the bridge. You can't short the bridge. You know, the bridge is the bridge. Like, you got the bridge. Like, you know, like what I don't understand. Like, we're projecting that the bridge is going to generate $1 billion of activity, so that makes our tokens worth more. And is that the right model for all things? The bridge is a public utility. It's not an art object. It's not, I don't know, a stock, right? In a private company.
well, you know, I think it, you know, it can be an art object. It can be a stock. I mean, you know, basically the banks refused to finance the Golden Gate Bridge.
Really?
Yeah. So they went to the people of San Francisco, and the people bought bonds and funded it themselves.
And then those bonds were traded on a secondary market?
Yeah.
But towards what end? Because the bridge doesn't produce anything beyond just being a bridge.
Well, actually, you know, it produces tolls, but
it produces tolls, so then it pays dividends, so to speak.
it can. Now, I don't know what happens in bonds for the bridge, but that would be interesting to find out.
Well, I mean, I think that's a crucial thing to find out because, like, I don't know, man. Like, it seems to me like that. I mean, in a very abstract, reductionist way, this idea of self-capitalization is great until you start looking at the implications, and then it gets really hairy unless there's some controls built in, right?
Well, you know, the thing is that you have to build utility into the token. You know, the token has to have some utility. If the token is worth a trip across the bridge, then that's a good thing. You know, that's a good thing. You know.
Yeah, it's a utility token, like they used to do in the Jersey Parkway.
Right. So
Tokens, the tokens.
You know,
They don't do those tokens
the bonds don't have any real utility, except that they get paid back and you get some interest on it. But you know, you invested in something you wanted, which was the bridge, which is what, you know, and you know, it's a way of in essence saving for the future. I don't know.
I mean, maybe if the tokens throw off dividends, it's like, you know, is there a way of doing it so like basically you stay invested in the bridge for X amount of time and the bridge pays dividends through the tolls that it generates? That to me seems like a much more sustainable model. So then you can't just speculate on the value of the bridge, but you can eventually sell your share for what you put into it. So then it becomes like a cooperative, right?
Yeah.
I
And,
pay
and there was interest paid. You know, bonds pay interest.
Yeah, bonds do pay interest, don't they, over time? But dividends is different than interest, though, right? Because dividends is based on the value produced, whereas bonds is just like flat 2.5% no matter what. Unless I'm misunderstanding it.
There's a, that's interesting. Why, Neighborly. That's GoldenGateBridge.org.
Bond measure passes.
Bonds pay off.
Oh, this is like 1930. This was like 1930 this past. 35 million in principal, nearly 39 million in interest. Paid entirely from bridge tolls.
Well, there you go.
I gotta go.
So,
Are you gonna do the 3 o'clock, Jim? We have something on the calendar, but I don't think anybody's coming these days.
I think we have 4 o'clock, but nothing's happening.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna.
It was supposed to be Jossy's substrate, I guess, today.
Well, I'll watch and see if anything is
Okay.
posted.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. All right.
I did want to finish with Eric, just to talk about, just to mention, ultimately what we want to capitalize on is human potential.
Yay.
If we can capitalize on human potential, we'll all be rich.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Peace, Gary.
Yeah. I'm going to take off too.
All right, cool. I'm setting my phone off. All right, cool. I'll try and jump in on another meeting, maybe on Wednesday. But yeah, I don't know. And in the meantime, I'll try and work on some diagrams and stuff for next Monday.
All right, next Monday. Yeah. Actually, I'm flying out on Tuesday up to New York.
Oh, you are? Cool.
I'm going up to Philly. I'm going to be at my son's.
You're going to Philly, and then you're going to stay in Jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to stay in Jersey, too. I'll be in North Jersey, though, I think. Unless I stay in Queens again. I'm not sure. I'm either going to stay at my parents'.
I had an Airbnb in Jersey City right by the subway there. Probably do the same thing.
It's probably a good idea because then you're right off the PATH train to get to New School.
And yeah, and you can do a. I'm wondering if there's any point in getting an Airbnb for multiple people.
Oh.
You might want to consider that.
Maybe. I have to think about it because I think like usually when I'm down, I'll either stay where you met me in Queens, which is a straight shot into the West Side, or I'll stay at my parents' place and like take the train in or drive.
Yeah.
I'll probably wind up crashing in Queens those 2 nights. Conference is Thursday through Saturday? Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or is it just Thursday and Friday? I think it's Thursday through, it's through the 9th. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll probably wind up doing some combination of those things because I also have to see my folks before I fly out on Sunday. It's gonna be kind of crazy. It's like 3 days of conference and fly out to Amsterdam Sunday night. But all right, cool, man. So we can hang out next week in New York.
Yeah. All right.
Cool, man. So I'll talk to you either later this week or next week.
Bye. Bye-bye.